coaches, I got to always focus on those income generating activities to get.
No, not income generating.
No, it's right. Wealth
generating activities.
Richard's new. Yeah, he's been coaching me on that. Stop saying income because then I start focusing on that and the money and all that. So wealth, yes, definitely. Because wealth is kind of like with the level up. It's different for everyone. What is wealth? So somebody, to me, might be something different to somebody else.
Somebody it might be wanting money. Somebody else it might be moving to that next level in business or society or whatever. Yes.
But yeah, and when I talk like that, sometimes, it just really hangs me up because I start thinking I have to go to that next level. But I loved how you just described that. Now I can really focus. This is where I am today. This is where I need to get to tomorrow, and take kind of baby steps too.
Yeah, absolutely. And and you mentioned it in the preview that every next level demands a different you. It's one of the next level pillars. And there's only over 50 next level pillars right now. And when you think about, well, what's my next level? And then you go, well, what's it going to require? Well, it's going to require you to be different. Every next level of your health is going to require you to be different. Every next level of your life, every next level of your business, your relationships, all of that, every next level of each of those components of your life are going to require you to be different. And the same you will get the same results. A different you will tend to get different results.
Definitely. And what do you think stands in most of our way from us going to even attempt to get to that next level? What seems to be that barrier?
Well, it's a great question because I ask that question a lot of times to my audiences, and I'll say, what do you think it is that stands between you and where you want to be? And they always come back with the two things. One, procrastination, laziness, procrastination. Or two, they come back with fear. Mm-hmm. I had a psychiatrist who had just finished his residency. He was just doing psychiatry, and he's like, yes. And I said, so what do you think? And he goes, fear. And I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, so if somebody's truly fearful of something, like what? And he said, well, like speaking on stage, or like, starting their business, or developing that new relationship. I said, okay, so that's the problem? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, I hate to tell you, but you spent a lot of money getting your education for a lot of nothing. And I said, I say that with respect. You have a PhD, I don't. I said, but I'll just tell you this, that the problem isn't fear, because here's the thing: is fear and procrastination will always take a back seat to a greater sense of urgency. Mm-hmm. And he said, explain. And I said, well, if somebody doesn't want to start a business, but if they're told that if they don't start a business in the next 30 days, and I mean cross the dots and cross the T's, dot the I's, start their business in the next 30 days, a loved one will die. What do you think they'll start the business? They will. I said, what happened to fear? What happened to procrastination? What happened to laziness? I said, the problem is we soften everything. We romanticize everything. Well, it'll be okay. Well, I can start it next month. Well, I can get out of bed tomorrow and go to the gym. We romanticize everything to the point where we take so little action that nothing gets done. What we have to do is create a greater sense of urgency, and we will eradicate fear and procrastination in those areas of our life.
Oh, I love the way you said it, folks out there. I hope you wrote that one down, because that's more than a golden nugget.
Have to definitely go back and listen to the podcast on that, because that is so true. And I can remember when we were, making our trips to Newport and masterminding and coaching with you. I can remember those exact words, and those are in my mind every time I get tired, or I just don't. I can do it tomorrow. I start thinking those words exactly. Another thing I think is if I knew my child was going to die at the end of the month, if I did not have $10,000 in the bank to save him, what would I do? I would definitely find a way to get that $10,000. It's that why, I think, is it the why has to be greater than the fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Tony Robbins talks about resources and resourcefulness, and I think it's a great statement. He makes a statement that talking about resource and resourcefulness, that most of us are relying on resources when it's really about our ability to be resourceful. Mm-hmm. Take the same scenario. You're going to have to start a business in the next 30 days, or you're going to lose a loved one. Absolutely, you'll start the business. You'll raise the $10,000. You'll buy, you'll do whatever. Okay, now, a loved one's going to die if you don't grow a third eye in the middle of your forehead. Guess what? Loved one's going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
because that's truly a resource issue.
Mm-hmm.
So all you have to say is, if a loved one was going to die, would I do it differently? What would I do differently? And if you could do anything differently, then you're probably making it about resources when it should be about resourcefulness.
Resourcefulness, I like that.
Yeah, I like the going bold way.
Yeah.
Go bold and figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that all of our listeners have a huge loads of paper and a pen, because I know myself, I've already been starting to write down all over my notes here, because there's so many golden nuggets that you've been sharing today, Bob, and we thank you for that. And, I just had somebody come in, and so we were talking about the Connectology. Why is it one of the questions that they weren't, why does it seem to be hard to connect with some people? I think what they're trying to say is when they go to a networking event, they seem to have this thing that stops them. I think the fear kind of when you mentioned that, might have brought that question in. But, why do they just don't take that next step to go talk to people and connect with them? Or is it because they don't know how to connect? Is it fear that's keeping them?
Well, unfortunately, it would be nice to say that there's a cookie cutter answer to that for every individual, but each person has a different excuse. I call them excuses, not reasons, because all I would have to do is flip a switch. All I have to do is say that every person, there's somebody in that room that has a sign hung around their neck underneath their shirt that says, if I'm not made to feel important at this event, I'm going to go home and take my life. And I don't know a single person that wouldn't talk to every person in the room, and not only talk to them, but try and make every person feel important if they understood and believed that. But it's because they're making the experience about themselves. How am I going to feel? Am I going to feel uncomfortable? Does that person look intimidating? Does that person look, like they're approachable? We tend to make it about ourselves versus someone else. If you're ever apprehensive about connecting with another person or ever apprehensive about walking on stage, it's because you're truly making the experience about yourself. What am I going to get? What if I say something wrong? What if they don't like me? We're making the experience about ourselves. Anytime we change it, we start to feel apprehensive or uncomfortable, all we have to do is flip the switch. What if that person is the person that actually needs to look into my eyes and for me to look in their eyes and tell them that I see them? And if we change that perspective, not only in business, but we change that in life, we will change the world. I can't tell you how many times I've looked in the eyes of another person and said, I see you. I see you. And had them just melt. Because it's so long that people have actually looked in their eyes and just said, I get it. I see you. I was speaking at an audience the other day, and I was standing there, and I looked out in the audience, and I said, I see you. And I looked around the room. I said, I see you, and I see you. And I get it. I get it. You're sitting here with all the wounds, all the things that have been said to you over the course of many years, the abuse, the being taken advantage of, everything. I see it. And I just want to give you a gift right now if you'll receive it. And many of them were already crying. Mm-hmm. And I said, I just want to give you this gift. Will you receive this gift? And they said yes. And I said, here's the gift. On behalf of that person that took advantage of you, that hurt you, that molested you, that abused you physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is, on behalf of that person, do you have that picture, that person's picture in your mind? I said, on behalf of that person, would you allow me to apologize? Because you may never hear it from them, but if you'll receive it from me, you will be free to move forward. And I had probably half the people in the room were bawling. And it was a great experience, and a lot of times that's what really people are missing. They're just looking for somebody that actually sees them as a human being, not as somebody that's going to buy their program, somebody that's going to, invest in their company, do business with them. They're looking for connection. I say this all the time. People are starving to death for connection. They are craving it and starving to death. I've never met a person starving to death because they don't know about your business or because they don't know about your business card or because they don't know your story.
That is so powerful and heavy that we just said, because I felt it myself, knowing that we have been the recipient of it, being in an audience when we first met you, and felt that connection that you had with the audience, both the first time we met you and then when we had you come and speak at one of our programs here. I mean, I know how you touch the audience and that you are there for them. You're not there for you. And I've always felt that every time we've talked or met in person.
Thank you.
So I got all these goosies right now, and I actually almost felt like crying myself right now. It's just that was so special because we do tend to get in our own way, and it keeps us from bringing joy to others. I mean, I think I learned this from you, that if you could just smile at someone when you meet somebody for the first time and just smile at them, that person may have had not such a good day. They may be at that point that they're just ready to end it all. But if you smiled at them and that made them just feel good, it could have changed their direction.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely.
So why don't people make as many connections as they should then? I mean,
Either, like I said, they've either made it about themselves.
Okay.
So that stops them because they're like, well, I don't feel comfortable. I don't identify with that person. I don't want to say something stupid. I don't think that person's going to like me. So it's all about them.
Mm-hmm. And
what's that?
I say most of us go up and ask people, so what do you do?
One of the Connectology pillars, as you know, one of the pillars is that the quality of your connections will always be determined by the quality of questions you ask. Stop asking the wrong question. The wrong question is, what do you do? That tells you nothing about them and only about what they do. Learn to ask better questions. So in Connectology, we put people through the paces of how do you develop better questions. But also, how do you ask better questions is determined by what's your outcome. So I have a criteria for what I want in a client, what I want in a strategic partner, and what I want in a friend. Those three things are the most primary things for me in my life. So if I look at that criteria, I have 6 criteria, and these are all non-negotiables. They're not negotiable. They're non-negotiable, which means if you don't have all 6, it's not a fit. These are non-negotiable items. This criteria is not an avatar. Marketers use avatars. I'm talking about criteria. I'm talking about behaviors and characteristics. So give you a perfect example. One of the things for and I teach this to direct sales organization, I teach it all around the world right now, is how do you develop a criteria to get those right people in your life in any category, and it's by developing the criteria before you need it. So I have a criteria. One of the criteria is open-minded. So if I know that every person that I want in my life needs to be open-minded, then I need to be able to ask questions when I meet people that help me identify whether they're open-minded or not. If I do that when I walk into a networking room and I'm looking for a strategic partner, or I'm looking for a friend, or I'm looking for a client, then all I have to do is develop a great list of couple of questions that help me identify that. So one of the questions I might ask if I'm trying to find out, I just meet you at a networking event, Richard, and I just meet you, and one of the things that I want to do is I want to stop the question from going down the path that leads to nowhere, and that is, what do you do? It's a very self-serving question first. It's very designed to, you tell me what you do so I can see if it serves me, or you tell me what you can do so I can see if I can serve you, which then turns around and serves me. The bottom line is, if you ask a better question, you get what? A better
answer.
If you ask a shallow question, you get a shallow answer. I believe that people are striving and starving for meaningful conversation. So what I'll do is I'll walk up to somebody, or as they walk up to me, I'll say, hey, wait. Before we go down the path of, asking the same old question, do you mind if I ask you a better question? Because I really care about who you are, not what you do. I've never had somebody stop me and say, no, I want to be asked the same question everybody else asks. Never. So here's the question. If I wanted to know if somebody was open-minded, I might say, hey, when was the last time you did something for the very first time? And I'll phrase it just like that, and I'll listen. How they respond is going to be very indicative to me. I asked this the other day, and a lady says, I came to this event. I've never been to an event like this. Oh, my gosh, this is the first time. I talked to somebody else the other day. They said, I went to a soccer match. I've never been involved in soccer. I never liked soccer. But I went to a soccer match. It was a great experience. Or they'll answer something like this. Well, I'm a creature of habit. I kind of tend to do the things that I like to do, and I don't really do other things. So I'd have to think about that a while. It's a good indicator. It doesn't mean they're not open-minded, but it's a good indicator that that person is probably not as open-minded as I want them to be. So I don't set an appointment with that person. I'm going to ask a couple of more questions and help identify. Maybe they match one of my other characteristics. Maybe they are more open-minded in different environments. So I'm going to ask more questions, but it's self-identifying to me whether they fit in the tribe or not. Once I can do that, once I've developed the criteria, and it's an art form to create a great criteria.